Ladies and gentlemen, people of the internet, we're back. Thanks for tuning in. Pie to Pie, another fantastic conversation. This one with Daniel Holzman of Danny Boy's Famous Pizza, located in downtown Los Angeles. I caught up with Danny right outside his shop on a beautiful, sunny LA morning. We had a great conversation. Daniel is a lot of things. Daniel is an author, he's a restaurateur. We talked about everything under the sun. I don't even know how much we talked about pizza. After the interview was over, Daniel was nice enough to take me through his whole entire kitchen. I saw the operation, he was showing me his policy, I met his team. Just a really well-run organization, and his pizza was fantastic. The hospitality was incredible, but the pizza, fermentation bubbles, the coloring, I'd only seen it on the internet. It tasted as good as it looked. Daniel, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys enjoy this conversation as much as I had having it. Daniel Holzman of Danny Boy's Famous Pizza, David Bowie forever. Later. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm down here with Daniel Holzman. Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Of Danny Boy's. We're outside the restaurant. It's maybe a little noisy. We got some music going.
This is like a breezy, early summer, late spring afternoon.
It's nice.
Yeah, I just got out of the cold plunge. It's windy.
A little wind. We're not supposed to touch the table.
Can't touch the table, can't lean. Got to speak up.
We start these off with a little gift. I got you this,
is that true?
I got you this Pinhook bourbon.
Tell me about Pinhook bourbon. I don't know anything about it.
This was the recommended bourbon. I actually almost got you brandy because I revisited your podcast with on Rogan, and you got him brandy. But I feel like this bourbon's gonna be better.
I got him brandy because it was $32. So that was the least expensive booze in the store.
This is $44.
Oh, you guys are crushing me.
So
no, that I bought that because I thought no one appreciates American.
I love brandy,
but no one appreciates Applejack and like the American tradition of making booze outside of the Kentucky whiskey and.
Yeah.
I can't wait to taste this.
Highly recommended.
I'm so thankful.
And I like that it was like in a wine bottle almost. So
this is gorgeous. I look forward to tasting this. I wonder who makes it.
Well, it's unfiltered, and it's probably delicious. All right, pie to pie, 15 questions. Those are the rules. There are no rules. Let's get into it.
Let's do 16 questions.
Okay. You've been cooking most of your life. You went to culinary school, and you have been part of many businesses. Why would someone with your resume decide to open up a pizza shop?
Wow. You've thrown the hardball questions out early. Trying to get this cheddar, you know what I'm saying? I worked in fancy French restaurants, and I had, ambitions of being a fancy French chef and having my, face on fancy magazines and Michelin stars and all that nonsense. And at some point, I looked around me, and the people that I was serving. So my father was a woodworker. He was a cabinet maker. And growing up, I used to have to enter through the employee entrance, the service entrance of buildings, and go and work with him. And then when I worked in restaurants, I had to go through the employee entrance and the service entrance. And I felt like a servant, like a second-class citizen, and I had a chip on my shoulder, and I didn't like it. And so I said to myself, when I open my own restaurant, I'm going to walk through the front door, and all the cooks and everybody's are going to walk through the front door. And at some point, working in fancy restaurants and looking at the customers, like my friends and my family couldn't afford to eat in the restaurants that I was working in. And I support and love the fact that there are folks that are making special food for special experiences in people's lives. But for me, food is not about exclusivity. It's about, approachability and inclusivity. So I left working in fancy restaurants to open a restaurant in New York Meatball Restaurant, where we were using inherently inexpensive ingredients. So though, so we could put the same kind of care and love and quality into the food. But a bowl of pasta. Nowadays, at the time, an $18 bowl of pasta was expensive at restaurants, 18 to 23. It should be $9. Now, $18 is fair, 18 to 23, but like a $47 bowl of pasta, like, who can afford that? I mean, who can afford that? It's so expensive. And I understand that, when you go to Funky and there's a person that is making the pasta with their hands, it's worth it. So it's not to say it's not worth it, but like, I'm not broke anymore. I used to be broke, and but I still can't afford it. It's crazy expensive. And so I wanted to make food that was accessible. And I got out to LA, and, my wife and I were hungover, and we ordered pizza. And, there's great pizza in LA, but I didn't find...
He has to say that as a disclaimer.
No,
probably.
There's great pizza in LA. And LA has a rich history of great pizza. It's just a different type of pizza. Every city has its own type of pizza. And in New York City, the pizza that I grew up with in New York City is my comfort food. And I couldn't find it, the example that reminded me of home. And so we opened it. And it didn't start out as an obsession, but like everything else, you start making pizza and then it takes over. Oh, it's so fucking loud here. It's unbelievable.
I know. It's like, this is going to be the most LA podcast we've ever had with our... Were you born in New York or New Jersey?
I was born in Boonton, New Jersey.
Okay.
In lovely... I've never been back, but I hear it's lovely this time of year.
Did you grow up in New York?
I grew up on 83rd Street and 1st Avenue. So when I was like 6 months old, I tell my mom, we got to get out of here. We got to go. We moved. My mom was from Long Island. My dad was from Brooklyn. He's a Dodgers fan. Even when he was out here, he would call them the Brooklyn Dodgers. They moved to New Jersey when my brother was born. And 4 years later, I got born. 5 years later, I was born, and we moved back to New York. Yeah.
Okay.
My mom never, I don't think, drove. She just stayed home for 5 years.
I hate driving.
Yeah, I like to drive.
Tell me about how obviously you've probably been making pizza throughout your career, but weren't as serious about it before this opened. Who did you go to? How did you get inspired? What did you do? So
basically, I have worked in pizza restaurants that serve pizza. So I had a basic general idea, but pizzas, it's very, as you know well, as well or better than me, certainly. Pizza is like its own thing that requires its own respect because it's baking. You have to be a baker first and foremost, and then the cooking is just like putting the toppings on and figuring out what you want to combine. And so I don't want to say I underestimated it, but I certainly didn't appreciate how kind of like profoundly complicated and involved and fascinated I would get. So I started out by calling like the three guys named Vinny I know, because everybody that makes pizza in New York's named Vinny. There was a guy named Vincent that owned Gino's Pizza, which was right across the street from me growing up, and it was my first job. I was a delivery boy there. And his advice was very New York and very classic. Like, I worked in a pizzeria since I'm a kid, so his measurements were like, you fill a 9-pan 3/4 of the way with the salt, and the water should be like, so it's cold to the touch, and you put a 50-pound bag in the whatever, and you fill the water to here.
He's using the force.
And I thought, I loved Gino's Pizza, and it was my pizzeria growing up. And then I called my friend Vincent Rotolo, who had opened a Good Pie in Las Vegas, and he really was the first person that really helped me to understand what was going on, and gave me some of the understanding of the like temperature and the different types of flour and the protein percentages and hydration and how all that worked together. And I think at some point I was asking him questions that he was like, look, you got to talk to this guy, John Arena, who's the guy that taught me how to make pizza. And so I went and I sat down he was teaching like a class to It was like a 75-plus-year-old lady pizza demo, like Ladies Who Lunch, Vegas style. I don't know, I don't know where they bought the experience, but I learned more watching John Arena talk to these ladies who didn't care or weren't their primary interest wasn't really learning. I think they were just interested in him because he's devastatingly handsome.
Yes, he is.
I learned more watching that like demo and conversation about pizza, and I was so impressed with not just his passion for it, but he really understands it on a level that very few people do. Devoted his whole life to. And so I went out and I spent some time working with him in Las Vegas, and I've spent a lot of time to this day, like I called him the other day, problem with baking our bread for our rolls for our heroes, problem with, the way that the garlic knots are rising, everything. Every time I have any problem, I'm calling him. He's the Yoda.
Yes, he is.
He's the guy.
He is.
Yeah.
Well, not a lot of people have access to people like Vincent. And
Everybody's got access to them. People just don't realize that the hospitality industry attracts hospitable people, and you just have to pick up the phone. And we all are responsible for paying that forward. And the folks that make pizza that care about the ingredients and making it great have a responsibility to one another in the community, because the more that we share what makes pizza special to folks, the more folks will want to spend $4 on a slice and not be value driven when they're ordering pizza, right?
Yeah, no, that was, you answered the question. I was just going to ask you the value and the importance of reaching out to people, maybe people that you think are unattainable, like a John Arena or a Vincent Rotolo or, Chris Decker.
You should call them or text them or FaceTime, DM them or whatever you slide into. And it happens constantly to me. It happens constantly to everybody that I know. We all share and question one another. And we're all in this together. There is no competition. The rising tide raises all boats. The goal for each and every one of us is to help each other to progress the quality of pizza, so that, as I said before, for years and years and years, restaurateurs have been teaching the American population that they should value price over everything else. And they've been using value-driven tactics to undermine and undercut one another, to the point where they are then forced to use subpar ingredients, make a subpar product, and then they've kind of hoodwinked the population into thinking that they're getting a good deal, when really they're paying for it in tax subsidies through farm support and otherwise. But
Sounds
it's
like it
true.
makes sense.
It is true. And then so when you wind up getting, it's the job of all of us that care about quality to help one another and teach and promote and help. The first time I drank a fancy bottle of wine, I didn't think it was that good. It tasted kind of sour and watery. And I had a friend that was a fancy sommelier, and she was like, "No, it's so much better than this other one that tastes like, strong fruit flavored." And I liked, because I remember drinking grape soda as a kid. But after a while, my palate adjusted and I learned to appreciate the nuance. And I think that pizza is like fine wine.
It might be a little easier to enjoy.
Yeah, but you understand, when they're like, "Oh, bad pizza is good pizza," bad pizza isn't always good pizza. Sometimes bad pizza just doesn't taste that great.
True, and I guess what you're saying is you should understand why the $6 slice or whatever is $6. You know what I mean? I
just, here's the deal, right? Growing up in New York City, I just have a chip on my shoulder. Pizza's great. New York pizza is the best thing in the world. And I'm certainly not going to disparage the pizza in New York, because it's phenomenally delicious. And there's more pizza per, for whatever population, square capita, this, that, or the other, than anywhere else. So, there's a huge variety in the quality of the pizza in New York. You can go down the street and have an extraordinary slice, and then you can have some pretty, run-of-the-mill, not-so-great pizza. And, I didn't really know that, though. I just thought all the pizza was great, and then some of them were by preference my favorite or otherwise. But the reality is that there's better and worse quality because of better and worse ingredients and technique and time and energy and love and care that goes into making the pizza.
Yeah.
And you know, I didn't, even as a person that was a chef and aspiring pizza guy and planning on opening a pizzeria and all this stuff, accolades and whatnot, I couldn't tell the difference until I started to pay attention. And now that I pay attention, it becomes apparent to me, and I don't want to eat the shit that isn't great.
Yeah.
But that, you know, it takes a little bit of learning. And I think that education comes down to the responsibility of the people that want people to appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'd say 90% of this industry really does.
Also, by the way, the reason a slice in my pizzeria is $5 a slice is, and I feel really strongly about this. Everybody in the industry is complaining about it being very difficult to find employees and people, customers. We have been undercutting one another on our price and the value structure of our business. You know, if people want restaurants out there, we need to support the fact that you got to pay a living wage to your staff. And what does that really mean? Like when I was growing up, I made $12 an hour, you know, 10, really, I started out at $7 an hour. My first job, $6.50. And then I got up to $12 an hour. And then when I started paying people 10 years ago, I was paying them $12 and $13 an hour. That's not a living wage. Even as a young kid, you know, like I could afford rent and that's it. Maybe I could afford a pair of shoes every, you know, whatever, when they wore out. Maybe I could go to the movies once a month. Like, yeah, as a, you know, you want to be 18 years old and working towards your passion, great. But I have adults with families that work for me, and I'm, you know, I don't want them to have two jobs. I want them to passionately care about the work that they're doing, and I want them to have a life outside of work. I got to pay them an adult wage. I've got to pay them. Everybody in our pizzeria makes at least $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and you know, and the leadership makes close to $100,000 a year. That's what it costs to have people that are good at their job and care about it. And the reason that people don't care about their job out there in the world is because they get treated like we don't care about them. And if you don't care about your employees, what do you expect? You know what I'm saying? Like, slavery is over, people. It's time to treat people well and care about them. And unfortunately, for the people that get to keep the whatever's left at the end of the month, that means you got to pay them well. You know, it would be really nice if I could just make lots of money and not care, but
yeah,
I didn't get born that way. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's why the pizza is $6 a slice, because labor cost is 40%. Growing up, labor cost was 25%, food cost was 25%. You know, the rest came to 30%.
Is your labor 40%? Close to?
Depends upon the month, but yeah.
Is your food cost still around 25?
My food cost is somewhere in the 22 range.
Okay.
And my labor cost, I try and bring my labor cost in at 35%.
Yeah.
But I don't try and get lower than that. Maybe if, you know, Texas is different. You could still, you know, I don't know, pay people $3 an hour, but you could carry a gun. You know, so you can shoot people when they don't work hard enough.
That's the trade-off, you know?
If they don't work hard enough, you just shoot them, I guess. I don't know. It's just, California is an expensive place to live. You want to live by the beach? You know, great. One of the things that costs a lot of money also is pizza.
Yeah.
If you want it to be good.
Well, everything, I mean, is, and I think people in LA are all about people being treated correctly. And so it should be easy for somebody to come up and be like, oh, that's why a slice costs $5 here, and it's a $5 hot and ready is $5.99.
Yo, I when I see a $7 slice of pizza, it makes it makes me want to, you know, run away. I get
Why?
Because it's so expensive. It's crazy. But I understand.
Yeah.
I understand. And the truth of the matter is that, you know, why do restaurants go out of business constantly? Because they're competing on price instead of quality. We should be concentrating on making the food as good as it can possibly be, charging a fair price, you know what I'm saying, for what we charge. And then if you do a great job, people will patronize you, and if not, then they won't. And that's the way it works. But if you don't charge a fair price, you lose money and you go out of business either way.
Yeah.
Period.
I guess, like, what a fair price is subjective, though.
In my opinion,
Yeah.
the way it works is you got to look at the numbers and look at your
your
profit center,
overhead, you look at your ingredients, you look at all those things.
If you look at your P&L and you're making over 10% today in California, you're doing pretty well.
Yeah.
Is the reality.
Yeah.
15% is great. If you're making 25%, you're probably not charging a fair price.
Yeah, okay.
But
All
God
right.
bless you. God bless you.
Facts.
You know what I mean? Like we've all been to, that restaurant in that tourist destination where it's crazy expensive and the quality isn't that good.
Yeah.
You know.
You can tell.
We can tell. I know you.
You can tell. Danny Boys, still pretty new. How have you attacked marketing the restaurant to get people ordering and to be recognized? Obviously, you have a great online presence.
Shit. I really set out for this restaurant to be like, not cool driven. You know what I mean? I feel like cool, that idea of like, we're going to make our business driven by the cool factor is it's a fleeting promise, right? And so you get the PR, you set it up, you're the hottest restaurant in town, and then it just disappears. You get this long honeymoon phase, and then it's like you drop off a cliff, and then you don't even know where the bottom is. And that can be really scary. So for us, the goal was to have a restaurant that was a real business, that was based in folks eating here because it was convenient to them, and all the other reasons that people eat at a local pizzeria. We've been blessed because I've got an amazing PR company that I work with. They've helped a lot. Amy and Anastasia have helped a lot to basically, they know the city very well. They know the local press folks, and we've concentrated on trying to put our money and our energy into word of mouth. So be at the restaurant, talk to the people, make sure the food is great, and be authentic so that when the PR people get your name out there and the press folks come in, they see that you're not just full of shit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, you can write a press release and talk about how passionate you are, but ultimately, the world right now feeds on authenticity. There's a lot of bullshit out there and everybody can sniff it out.
Yes, very easily, usually.
Yeah.
Sometimes not that easy. But
Either you're at the pizzeria during the busiest time of lunch, drinking whiskey and doing podcasts.
Yeah, they're just banging in there. Someone just called in sick.
You got to show your people that you care.
Well, you do well pushing the New York guy in LA on the gram. It's like it really works.
I appreciate that.
You know what I'm saying? Your pizzas also speak for themselves. They look incredible. The crust formation, the color, that's what I can usually look at a pizza and be like, this
right away.
This fucking dude knows what he's doing. Did you have a plan for your social media presence?
I think, I wanted to be as obnoxious as possible without turning people off. No, I think I'm myself. Although I watch my wife doesn't think so. My wife is like, that character you play on Instagram is a disaster. I'm like, character I play? I think I'm just more animated and passionate at work.
Well, it kind of feels like a little bit. I've listened to you
It's
on
a little
other
bit
podcasts.
much.
It feels like a little bit of a shtick, but
Yeah.
I think it's I don't know if you're kind of making
Well, I
fun
got
of
this
yourself.
thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so I never wore a gold chain before. I was like, if I'm going to be a pizza guy, I got to be. And I definitely grew up in Manhattan on the Upper East Side, so I definitely don't have a Brooklyn accent. So that definitely, I think that I might be channeling some nonsense there, 100%.
I mean, just talking to you now is you turned it on.
I
for
might
the
be
camera.
more of a Woody Allen, not in the love interests with family and youngsters, more which is in the. I might be more Larry David than Brooklyn Italian, but yeah, I turned it on a little bit. It's a
Okay.
little. It was I think that when you go to a pizzeria, that relationship that you have with the people behind the counter is part of the experience. And I was trying to understand what hospitality means. And hospitality is you go to a fancy restaurant, hospitality means that they pour your glass of water for you. You go to my house and I say, hey, go grab yourself a beer. That's the highest level of hospitality. I'm like, mi casa, su casa.
Mm-hmm.
It's true hospitality. And in a pizzeria, it's yo, I don't give a fuck about you. I care about all the people in line here. We're moving it fast and we're going to be cordial, but there's a glint in my eye because you're my customer and there's a relationship that you form. And one of the biggest challenges of opening, I had lunch with a guy named Donald Link, who's an amazing restaurateur from New Orleans. And I was asking him why the food that's so extraordinary from New Orleans doesn't work very well in other cities. You don't find a lot of the cuisine in other places. And he was saying because it's very hard to teach people how to cook something that they don't know what it's supposed to taste like. And I think, LA has extraordinary pizza that is grown from LA's taste and ingredients. But New York pizza is very distinct, and trying to get someone that hasn't ever tasted or been to New York to understand what makes New York pizza is a challenge. And so part of the experience of being in a New York pizzeria is the experience of the rest of the pizza guy behind the counter, pizza guy behind the counter. And so I thought that part of my responsibility was to show the folks that work at the pizzeria what that means. And part of it is playing a little bit of a character. It just is. Yeah. Like I go into Vincent Rotolo's pizzeria and he's like, "Oh, how you doing?" I'm like, and in all fairness, he is from Brooklyn and he does speak like that. But I was like, all right, does that make sense?
No, it does. It does.
So basically, I'm a fraud.
You're
a phony.
It's
fake.
It's still like authentic. You know what I mean?
Fugaz. I'm a fraud, a phony, a fake.
You live on the west side, beautiful Venice Beach, right?
Oof, beautiful. I have a gorgeous tent.
Nice.
I live right on the.
You got waterfront property.
Waterfront property, beautiful tent.
Oh
there's a public toilet just next door. The city feeds me, which is extraordinary.
Dude, it's actually looking pretty clean out here.
Listen. I don't know whether it's the pandemic or it's the new government folks or whatever, but it's way clean. It's very nice actually. Yeah. And I hate to propagate that as a joke, but it is funny.
Yeah.
But it wasn't funny when it really was a thing. But it's way nicer now.
Well, that's
People
good.
have been cleaning it up.
That's good. Where are you getting your pizza from out there when you order?
Man, in Venice Beach. So in all fairness, I don't eat a ton of pizza outside. I eat a slice of pizza every single day at Danny Boy's. I'm here every single day.
Yeah.
And for a while there, it was like 2 or 3 slices. I thought it was a magic diet food because I didn't gain weight for a while, and then it hit me like a freshman 15, but more. And the pepperoni finally gave me heartburn. If you eat a slice of pepperoni pizza every day, it'll destroy you. But you could do like a year straight before it really gets bad.
Okay.
That's my experience. I eat the Gelina pizza. I go down there to Gelina to go and I eat that slice of pizza. Obviously, Abbott's Pizza Co. has been there forever, and they've got that weird sesame seed and like bagel crust, which is actually kind of delicious, and I loved it. They have a salad slice that I tried to mimic here because I thought it was so great.
Yeah.
And I love that. Little Dynamite just opened up in Culver City. Yep. They've got a square slice that's great. And I really like that. I really like them. Joe's Pizza was growing up was a go-to, and so there's one in Santa Monica.
Though, right?
Hey, it's different. Good? It's different, but I got to tell you, like, I moved out here, and Joe was like, "Hey, you're opening." He called. And
Joe?
Yeah, it was like I want to have him.
Is the Joe's out here like his cousin or something?
I don't know what. There's
removed?
Some complication in there. I think it might be like one of those Ray's Famous Original stories where it goes around.
He called you.
He called me.
Out of the blue?
Out of the blue and was like, I hear you're opening. I want to welcome you to LA, take you to lunch. I thought he was trying to like break my knees if I opened next door. I was like,
you done, son?
It was, so, yeah. I'm trying to think of where else I eat. Those are where I would order pizza from.
Okay. That was enough.
3 pizzerias is enough?
Good. Yeah. I think you covered it. You ever been to South End?
No, tell me about it.
Oh, I think it's mostly Neapolitan. I forget the dude who owns it. Italian. It's good.
Yeah. I'll try it out.
South End, I think is what it's called. And then Great White.
Yeah, so
they just have a pizza program.
They've got a pizza program,
been there.
So the guy that we hired, I opened this pizzeria, and I got to be honest, man. working in pizzerias and learning about it, blah, 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 it does not prepare you to run a pizzeria. So I hired a bunch of guys that worked in pizzerias, and one of them was a guy named Mardo. And he taught all of us how to make pizza. I mean, he was extraordinarily talented, and he had come from Great White. This kid has worked at every single, man, I don't want to be rude. This man has worked at every single pizzeria in LA because he gets fired after like 3 weeks because he's a drunk with the worst attitude I've ever experienced in my entire life.
It took me,
I mean, I wanted to murder this guy so many times. He was so openly, extraordinarily rude to me, to my face, but I was like, dude, he's the only guy that could get the pizza off the paddle round. I was like, Jesus.
Is he still working for you?
No, absolutely not. He quit. I tried my best to help him out, man, but he just would not. He never showed up on time, not even once. Man.
He was his own worst enemy.
He was the pits, but I loved him. And if he came in today, I would give him a big hug. He helped us so much, Mardo. But he had this whole theory about it's got to be like square. It was like you make it square, 4 corners. You call it the 4 corners, Papi. That would he say, like 4 corners, Papi. And then you would like make it with 4 corners. He's like, you have to see the 4 corners. I'm like, dude, I don't understand. It's round. And then one day, the other day, I was making a pizza and I was throwing it. I threw it down and I could see the 4 corners. I could see it. I was like,
your mind.
I was like,
melts.
holy shit, Mardo was right. There are 4 corners in a circle. And he's like, and you stretch it from the octagon. And I was like, but that guy was extraordinary. Yeah,
Sounds like
and he was the pizza guy at Great White. They were the last people to fire him before he came to me. I didn't fire him. He quit.
Wow.
He walked out. He started crying and he walked out. I loved him.
Well,
Mardo.
Mardo, I hope you're doing well.
He's not doing well.
We're all dying.
He's not doing well.
So you're a jiu-jitsu dude.
Am I a jiu-jitsu guy anymore? I hurt my back. I haven't trained for like 7-8 months.
I mean, isn't it something that you carry with you your whole life?
I've been thinking a lot about that because I'm getting back surgery and I'm wondering whether I'm going to wrestle anymore. And it makes me feel very sad when I think about it. I still have my gis take up most of my closet still. So I guess maybe that's the definition of a jiu-jitsu guy.
Yeah, you got a bunch of
But
stuff.
I'm embarrassed to wear jiu-jitsu. I promised myself I would never wear jiu-jitsu gear like out until I got my black belt. And then I got my black belt and I started wearing that real proud.
You like wore it to work, your black belt?
Always, at all times.
Mm-hmm.
No, the sweatshirts and
Yeah.
stuff. But then I haven't been wearing it lately because I feel like a little bit of a fraud. I feel like you got to be in it or not. You got to be in it or not.
Well,
It's not a hobby.
yeah.
I mean,
it's
it
a
is.
lifestyle. Is that what you're saying?
It's like Othello. It's a minute to learn, a lifetime to master. No, I think you got to be in it, man. I don't think you. Yes, I think you keep your black belt. I'm proud of it. I worked my ass off. It was the hardest thing that ever happened for me. But I don't think it's something that we all know exactly where we are in the game. Period. End of story.
Yeah.
Right? We all know.
Well, it's a physical thing, but there's also mental, right? That you carry on in that art. I've never done it.
Yeah, I think I could fuck a guy up if he stepped to me for
Yeah.
sure, and so I'm not overly concerned about it. I also think that I could get punched in the face and it would really suck, and he could
usually does.
either way. So I don't. I think you got to stick with it, man. I think you got to be in it or not.
Okay.
That's what I think. And I think it doesn't mean that you have to be competitive, but I think either you're on the mats or you're not, and everything else is bullshit.
Okay.
Where you are in the game, where your belt is is less important than. It's like when people are like photographers. What's a best camera? And they're like, well, the camera you got with you.
Yeah, the one in your
it's
hand.
kind of like, it's like embarrassing, but it's just true. You got to be in it.
Well, has doing jiu-jitsu ever, have you, when you were like really into it, did it help you in other parts of your life? Like, did it help cooking at all? Did that kind of thing bleed into other things? I've thought about getting into it and as a release and maybe it helping for other aspects of life.
Jiu-jitsu's like meditation.
Yeah.
It's just a form of meditation.
Yeah.
So, yes, no question about it that it, I have a frenetic, energy, right? And that is, I've got a lot of energy and it's not getting a release right now. I could swim laps all day long and it's not the same experience. So it's a form of meditation. And
Okay.
it helps in everything. It keeps you centered and calm. It also, men are born like you watch those nature channels and the two bulls go up and they try and kick each other's ass, and that's how they decide who's going to get laid. And I understand that that's not how you get laid anymore, but for some reason there's some part of the male brain that is always, I think maybe it's because you're scared young, but you look at the other guy and you think, can I beat him up or not? And I don't know. Like, I guess we've had, only a few thousand years of living in a society for us to like hone the finer aspects of our humanity. But, we've got a lot of instinct in there that makes us want to be brutes and beat each other up and be crazy people. And the jiu-jitsu really helps you to understand where you fit in that world. So it's less like, I don't know, I just don't feel that need to be an asshole to somebody or fake like I'm gonna fight them, because either they can beat you up or they can't, and that's not what makes them better or worse than you.
Yeah.
And once you experience it a lot, you also realize that like fighting is something that, like, growing up in New York and as a chef, I just figured I should be tough and good at making pizza by like default. Those should be the downloaded cards that I came with, right? But the truth of the matter is that unless you fight all the time, you're not good at it. The person that works harder, trains harder, and puts more energy and time into it is the person that is better at that. And the person that spends more time concentrating on being the best and learning the most about pizza is the one that's going to do the most of that. Everything in life is about work and discipline. Energy in gets quality out.
Yeah.
Time and energy, that's it. So like that idea of inherently tough doesn't exist, although there are some mofos that are just inherently tough.
Built that
you
way.
see them.
Yeah.
They go to prison and then they survive. I'm not actually a tough guy, obviously. Clearly. No one ever thought so.
No one ever said.
It was the glasses that gave me away.
Have you always wore? You came out of the womb wearing those?
It's a Woody Allen thing.
All right. You're a lot of things, but also an author, co-author of 2 books.
Charlatan, author.
Hey, dude, everything under the sun. Is that something you
Thespian.
always? Is that something you always wanted to do? And would you do it again? And was the process enjoyable? That's 3 questions.
Yes. It's writing is like, man, the hardest thing. The reason that people that are great writers make a lot of money is because it's worth it, dude. It is so extraordinarily hard and painful to write something, and it seems like it should be so easy, but man, what a challenge, and what a rewarding experience. And Matt Rothbard's my writing partner.
Yeah.
And I went to him years ago. We first met 15 years ago, and I was like, had some douchey attitude. I was like, I want to have a column in the New York Times, which is like, I don't know, it's like going up to like some guy and being like, I want to be in the New York, in the Metropolitan Museum of Art. I want to put my photographs there. And you're like, okay, well, like, fuck you. What gives you the, And Matt was really nice and about it. And he was like, well, if you really are interested in writing, like, I went to college and spent my time as a journalist, working for, cutting my teeth and blah, blah, blah. But if you really want to do it, why don't we co-author a column together? And it was, it's been a really wonderful, fulfilling experience in my life, working with him, learning to write a little bit, learning about the process. And then most fun about it is challenging myself, because when you write something down, it's indelible. It exists forever. And so if you don't want to embarrass yourself, you got to know what you're talking about. And so I'm a natural born bullshit artist, and I'm constantly spewing crap at them. I mean, my family all knows, like, me. So they all know, like, I know everything except, like, if you have Google, it's not necessarily right what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And but when you write it down and you publish it, you really got to slow down and pay attention. And I've learned, cooking, you learn so much tracking down the information and trying to make sure that what you're doing is not going to embarrass you. Mostly, I just don't want to embarrass myself. Really, in real life, actually, I just want to be embarrassed.
Are you going to write another book?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't have one on deck, but Matt and I talk about it all the time. He's busy and I'm busy, and so the first cookbook I wrote was with the Meatball Shop cookbook.
Yep.
And I didn't know what I was doing, and I learned a ton because the publisher was extraordinary, and we hired somebody to help us. My partner Mike Chernow and I worked on it, and I'm very proud of that book. But a lot of the credit goes to the folks that were, the editor and the person that we hired to help us write it, and the photographer. I mean, they're all big part of it. It's a collaboration.
Yeah.
And a little bit before the pandemic, I was reading Martin Luther King's autobiography, and I was thinking to myself, how did this guy? It's an extraordinary book. He's an amazing writer. Mm-hmm. And obviously, like the speeches, you got to write them before you read them, I guess. But I was thinking, how did this man that was so busy, he had so much going on, have the time to write such an extraordinary book? It's so inspiring. Not, obviously there's everything about his life is inspiring. Not everything. A lot about his life is inspiring. But the fact that he then had the time and discipline and energy to put it down and to share it with folks. And so when the pandemic happened, Matt and I were talking, and I was like, the problem with writing a cookbook or writing a book is unless it's 100% your focus, it's kind of bullshit. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to make something great, you have to put 100% of your energy into it.
Yeah.
And I don't have the time to do that, but I did. I did have the time. When we were stuck at home, and we spent that year plus concentrating on really making something extraordinary, and it was a really wonderful. It's wonderful to feel truly like you gave something your all. You were 100% honest. You left it all on the mat, and you could be proud of the outcome, whether or not it. No matter what the outcome, I'm proud of it because of the energy I put in. Yeah. And it happens, I think, to be really great.
By the way, that second book was Chef IQ. Is that what it was?
Food IQ.
Okay.
Food IQ, yeah. It's 100 questions, recipes, and answers to help you raise your cooking smarts. Because it's not just about cooking; it's about how you sound when you're talking about food. This is cultural currency to be traded around the water cooler at work.
Oh my God, was that
not to alliterate?
Was that an expert from Google?
I think somebody
was that a review?
There was media training.
That was incredible.
Media training involved.
I think you blacked out there for a second. You're co-founder of the Meatball Shop. I imagine you being out here. There's 2 locations, right? Still? Can we talk about this?
Of course.
I imagine you being out here now. You're not working in or on the shops. Is this just residual income? And if so, how do I do this?
Okay, I'll tell you all about passive income. It's a fallacy in the restaurant world. Either you are paddling with the ship, and it's because you're facing upstream, and as soon as you stop working on it, you're washed out to sea. And ultimately, unless you have a large restaurant group and you're able to, unless you're one of the big dogs that has hundreds of restaurants, the truth of the matter is that most restaurants only have enough money for their immediate team. And then there aren't a ton of profits left over, especially if you want to grow. You can't afford to distribute the profits. You want to keep them in the company. And so there's no passive income for me on that one. But the business is. Let me think about how I feel about it.
Are you still a part of the business?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a part of the business. I'm just not working there.
Okay.
And so when I think about what that means, I'm an owner.
Are you still consulting on the business at all?
Yeah, absolutely. So I just don't have a role in the day-to-day operations.
Yeah.
And the reason I'm pausing is because when I really think about what that sounds like, it sounds like bullshit to me. I'm like, either you're working on a restaurant or you're not.
Well, I think a lot of people start a restaurant and think that like one day they won't have to be there every day. You know what I mean? And like there's a fairy tale at the end of all the struggle that like maybe it's this thing that operates by itself.
It just does. That's not true.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it is, but not if you want a great restaurant
Yeah.
that you care about. I open a restaurant because I want to be there and do it.
Yeah. I think the great John Arena said himself, you shouldn't have an office in your restaurant unless the office is in front of the oven.
I don't have an office in the restaurant.
Yeah.
I just, yeah. I mean, the pizza. We opened the Meatball Shop. We opened we built a bunch of restaurants. I hired a CEO to run it for us.
Yeah.
He was doing an extraordinary job. There were challenges in the business, and you know, this pandemic was very, very challenging for New York, especially.
Of course.
We've got a couple of shops left. They're doing well. The food is great. The team is extraordinary. I don't spend a ton of energy and time on it, but we do communicate about it. I support it however and whenever I can. My partner Michael and I talk about it, you know, very, very regularly. But he's in the same position I am, you know, not on a day-to-day basis. Yeah. And it's something that I'm very proud of.
Yeah.
But I feel conflicted about because I feel like, again, it's like jiu-jitsu. Either you're on the mat or you're not.
Yeah.
So, like, when you're like, oh, you're a jiu-jitsu guy, I'm like, am I if I'm not there every day? And so it's like, when you ask me about the Meatball Shop, I'm proud of it. We birthed it. But, like, if I'm not there every day, can I really call it mine? And is that fair to the people that are busting their ass to make it great?
Yeah.
And I don't think so. I think it's theirs. You open a restaurant and it's all yours. I mean, right now I'm working on a business plan. I'm working on a business. I've got drawings. I mean, it's mine. Maybe I start to share it a little bit with the architect, the investors a little bit, but it's like mine. And then all of a sudden you open it up and your team, it's your teams.
Yeah.
And it's your customers.
Yeah.
And like that pizzeria, it says Danny Boys, but it ain't my pizzeria. It's they're the ones that are in there doing it.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here bullshitting on camera.
Yeah.
I mean, that's true, right? Like that's their pizzeria. And if you get that and that's what like when I was a young cook, I wanted to own what I was doing, care about what I was doing,
Yeah.
and I wanted to be recognized for that. And if you can recognize the people that are doing it for you, then you do have a chance of
Succeeding.
getting a little bit of an escape. Like I was in the hot tub in cold plunge this morning and doing a little laps while they were setting up, and thank you guys.
Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
Do you have plans to open more of these?
We're talking about it.
Yeah.
I was really careful this time around not to have a master plan of like, I've got ambitions and goals, but the plan has to be dependent on the success and what's really going on in the business.
Yeah.
Because I feel like in times in my life I get lost and I can't see the forest through the trees kind of thing. If you really want to know where my persona came from for Instagram, there's this dude that's on Instagram right now. You know that guy that's like the greatest? He's like, oh yeah, you should go down on Saturday night like your sister or whatever.
The long hair dude?
Yeah, the long hair
that
dude.
guy's
I was like,
fucking
I want to
amazing.
be funny like that guy, but not talk about obnoxious
Yeah,
things.
he's like, I'm
and,
so fucking hungover in the
hey,
airport.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gabagool,
Yeah.
vinegar peppers,
Yeah.
you know, brajol, brajats. I was like, I want to be less obnoxious than that guy, but as funny, which it's not possible because they're inextricably linked. What were we talking about?
I
Cold
have no
plunge?
idea. Yeah, the cold plunges, dude. What do you think a good startup for this kind of concept is monetarily? A good estimate.
I think the more money you have, the better off you are. But realistically, man, look, it depends upon how much you got to lose, right? Because insurance and building permits and all that kind of stuff, like, you know, when you're young and you're kind of reckless because you got a little less liability, if you lose it all, it's like kind of okay, you know? And then as you kind of progress, you realize how risky what you were doing really was, and it starts to get more expensive. But I think in LA, you need 600 grand to open a pizzeria. And that's tight.
Yeah.
You could probably do it for 4, but, it's pretty down and dirty.
Yeah.
And it costs me closer to $1 million.
Yeah. Was this a full build out? The
landlord did a lot for us here.
Okay.
And so it's kind of part of the construction of the place. So it's a little more complicated than that. Plus it's a union building. So, the union folks, make a living wage, and that makes it, a fair price and more expensive. And there are also a lot of rules based on the complications of being part of a high-rise building, engineering wise, and hours of operation wise that made it very expensive to build out here.
Yeah.
But freestanding, smaller building, I think 500 grand, 600 grand, 400 grand, depending upon what's in stock. Ideally you find a place that's already a pizzeria, But I kind of think that the problem is that, look, like the goal is for it to be financially successful. And in success, you don't want to be limited by the choices that you make during construction. So if you can spend more to get it
right.
A penny saved is a penny earned, but you don't want to limit your upside because you didn't spend a little bit of money on what you needed to make it right.
That's great advice.
Yeah, that's what I think.
What is your best selling item and your worst selling item?
Pepperoni pizza is our best selling item.
Yep.
By a third of the people get a slice of pepperoni. New York, it's just a slice of cheese, regular slice. But here it's pepperoni. Maybe it's 50-50 in New York, I don't know.
Okay.
Pepperoni's the best pizza, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Come on. If it wasn't the best, everybody wouldn't want it.
It's simple.
It's phenomenally delicious. Yeah. It's unbelievable. I use that Izzo pepperoni. I love that pepperoni. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
People love that roast bianco. If you want the cup and char I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But we did a blind taste and I thought the Izzo was really delicious. I love them both, but I did them both. But there's something like animalistic about that Izzo. It tastes like pork. I like that. Anyway.
Is it a thicker cut too?
I think that they come in multiple cut sizes, but we've got a medium cut, yeah.
Okay.
I think those Prince Street people, they use a real thick cut pepperoni.
I think they use Rosa Grande Extreme from
Extreme.
Hormel.
Yeah, that Rosa Grande is great.
Yeah.
The worst selling item on our menu is probably the by numbers. Maybe the Greek salad.
Oh, really?
I think we sell like 14 Greek salads a day.
When do you decide to kill an item? Even if it's like something you really love, you really wanted it to work out.
I learned it. So I fly planes. Do you know this? I pilot planes.
Wow.
In the plane, they have a checklist that is the equipment necessary in order to be legally allowed to take off. And you go through that checklist, and if something is broken or not working, you could be like, either it is required or it's not required equipment. And I think a pizzeria or any restaurant menu is that way. You look at your menu item and you say, do I need to have this item on the menu? Like if you said, is it part of the identity of what makes this restaurant authentic to what it's supposed to be? And if that's not the case, then there are no sacred cows and you should fucking cut it as soon as you goddamn can if it's not making you fucking money, because what are you here for?
Yeah.
It's a waste of your time, right? So in a nice, friendly way, back to the nice guy. That's my other persona. It's called the asshole guy. Doesn't get
that was good.
condescending dick bag.
I was getting fucking hyped.
So I think if it's doing something for your customer, like I think about that a lot, but I think that people hide behind that excuse where you're like, well, I got gluten-free on the menu, not because it sells well, but because when you get a big party, one of them is gluten-free and it stops people from, it's like, hey man, you gotta be authentic and true to yourself. You make food that you love, that you think is great quality, that you wanna eat, that you wanna share with people. And then, and if it doesn't sell well, then like get out of your own way and get it the fuck off your menu. Make room for shit that will.
Do you cook your gluten-free in a pan?
Yeah, we make a pan crust. I think the gluten-free trend is waning.
For sure.
I think it's waning. It's less popular than it was. I think especially in a place like LA, which is at the forefront of at the forefront, the vanguard of dietary. I'm trying to say this in the nicest way I can possibly say. We're at the vanguard of dietary restriction.
Yeah.
Dietary trend. I think that I'm seeing a lot fewer folks come in and get gluten free. I think it's wonderful for the folks that are celiacs and really have quite a sensitivity to it because there's more availability. I'm proud of the gluten free pizza. We wouldn't sell it otherwise, but we don't sell as much as I had anticipated.
Yeah, well, maybe people are just making better pizza using better grain, and so it's better on people's stomachs.
Or maybe like most trends in the world, it ebbs and it flows.
Do you think it was a trend?
Do I know it was a trend?
No,
Yeah,
do you think
absolutely.
it was a
Of course,
trend?
we know.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course, it was a trend.
All those people are just fucking full of shit.
No, absolutely not. They're not full of shit. But that doesn't make it not a trend.
Yeah. I mean, why? I wonder why? How did that become a trend? Was it really people just?
I think that what winds up happening is folks, look, I'm sure, and there's lots and lots and lots of scientific evidence to show this, that people have different levels of sensitivity towards
Everything.
Towards different types of foods.
Yeah.
And so, I imagine that, most of the folks were being honest. And I'm sure that there's some psychosomatic factors involved as well.
Yeah.
Like in all, medical research, we know that when people think something to be true, it helps and it is true.
Yeah.
And so who cares why it made people feel better?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. We shouldn't talk about this. I don't have nice things to say.
Yeah. No worries. No worries. No worries.
I only like
do
to
you
say
eat,
nice
do you,
things.
Do you eat your gluten-free pizza?
I did once.
Yeah. You had it one time.
I tried it out.
That Fiore gluten.
Dude,
flour's
that's
pretty good.
I gotta
It's
be
kinda
straightforward.
magic.
The gluten-free pizza, I eat a slight. I make sure to eat at least one pizza of everything one taste of every single thing that we serve at least every week, right?
Yeah.
So I eat a slice of gluten-free pizza every single week, and it's
Yeah.
delicious.
Yeah.
I think it's a delicious food, and I think if you were to close your eyes and not know what you were eating, you wouldn't know whether it was gluten-free or not. It's just a delicious type of food.
Yeah.
I only take umbrage or get frustrated with folks when they make food that doesn't taste good just to
have it on the menu.
Have it on the
Yeah.
menu. And so we said we wouldn't have it on the menu if we couldn't make it great.
Yeah.
But luckily, Vincent Rotolo is a friend of mine, and he helped me with it. And
he knows what he's
he's
doing.
the gluten-free guy.
Yeah.
And,
All right. I didn't mean to talk about gluten-free.
No, I just don't want to
this long.
speak to the veracity of people's complaints about their dietary restrictions. I think in America, there's a lot of folks who are self-indulgent, and
100%.
and I think that there's a lot of folks that blame reasons for their, health problems, and we should take more responsibility.
Have some self-discipline.
Yeah, like, you don't have to call the cops for every single problem. There's a lot of problems that we can solve for ourselves, and we don't need to we can help each other, help one another, be part of the community, and stop waiting for a magical other thing to fix our problems in a nice, friendly way.
Well said.
Gluten being one of them.
All right. Is there a failure in your career?
My career is I have been failing upwards from the very beginning.
I need one failure that really taught you something that hopefully you could share that would help us.
I had a terrible attitude, and I struggle with it to this day, being respectful and appreciative and kind and thoughtful. And my mouth works faster than my brain, and I'm one of those Eastern European crazy people that just, speaks. I've offended everybody. This is terrible. She was right. No, it's terrible. My publicist is giving me a thumbs up with a big smile. She has no idea what I'm saying. I'm one of those people that's, hyperbolic. And I'm like, it's great, it's shit, it's terrible. And I can be rude and obnoxious. And I've stifled so many creative, wonderful, thoughtful, hardworking people that wanted to support what I was doing. And the lesson, I think, my biggest failure that continues is not truly appreciating the people that are next to me that are hoping to share my dream, but ultimately supporting me to realize my dream. And that's a tough one. That's challenging. Fucks me up.
Yeah.
You could be so nice, but if you show your ass for 1 minute, if you're honest for 1 minute and you're a dickhead, it takes it all away.
Yeah, it's like, oh,
Yeah.
there he is.
There's that guy. Turns out he was an asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want to support him anymore.
So don't be an asshole.
Don't be a fucking asshole.
Okay, here's the hard question. Is pizza on the East Coast better?
Is pizza on the East Coast better? It's very different, but no, it's not better. That's a silly question. There's, okay, let me use this as an allegory example. What did you call it?
I think I said metaphor or autobiography.
A metaphor? What's the thing where you do the letters and you come up with a word that sounds like it and then you can remember the
That's
acronym?
called a bar.
Acronym? Bar?
Yeah.
That's a bar.
That's a bar, dude.
I was thinking when we were trying to write the cookbook about, in a world where it's not popular to look at one culture and say that they're better or worse at something than another culture, then I was trying to understand why French food was so celebrated and had so much influence on the rest of the world's food culture and culture. And I realized that it had been celebrated in French culture for many, many years before other cultures maybe had celebrated food in the way that, kings had put together contests for chefs, and chefs were not second-class citizens, but they were considered artists, and there were techniques that were developed through that. And when a culture celebrates something and supports it, it has a better chance of becoming reaching its goal, right? And in New York City, like, pizza got there first. So there is more time and energy. And so therefore there are more pizzerias and more people that know how to make pizza, and it's had more time to evolve and innovate. And I think that as the Italian diaspora kind of like migrated across the country, different communities used different ingredients based on what was available, and they made pizza that would be to the liking of the local community. And so it changed, but it didn't make it better or worse. It just made it very different. And so some places have then, pizza's proliferated and done very well, and you have a huge community of lots and lots of different pizzerias. And other places it wasn't as popular, and so you didn't see as many. And so in the places where there are lots of pizzerias and lots of people making pizza, it naturally the cream rises to the top, and there's a bigger pool. So this is a complicated way of saying yes. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes, it is better.
Yes, it is better. I'm hoping that everybody's thoroughly confused enough to have forgotten the question.
Like, what the fuck is he talking about? The French?
I'm trying to say that, when you have more time and more energy and you put more effort into it, it has a better chance of being better. But, there's more pizza.
Yeah.
But I don't know that it's better, especially now when we can all share information and understand and learn from one another so quickly, right? It's like I don't need to go to a chef to get the information. I can go online and find the information. I can study. It's available to me. So I think there's great pizza. Is the pizza better in New York? Is the pizza better on the East Coast? I also haven't traveled enough around the East Coast to really be an expert and say, like, have you had pizza in Charlotte, North Carolina? Is that in North Carolina?
Yeah, it could be fire, though.
Could be amazing.
Yeah.
Could be terrible. I don't know. Have you had pizza? I haven't traveled around the West Coast enough. I have no idea, but I'm just making the best pizza I can.
That's
I have an
all that
opinion
matters.
about it, but I ain't going to share it.
Well, okay. All right. I saved the hardest question for last. What is the greatest band of all time and why?
I think the greatest band of all time and why?
It can be artists,
I'm a
too.
big Shostakovich guy. I think that his marches were extraordinarily influential. Huge. I don't know. What do I know, man? I make a pizza over here.
You know, you ever listen to music?
I've heard of music.
Have you done that before?
I've listened to music.
I know you're a busy
before.
guy.
I mostly podcasts and books on tape.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I only listen to tape.
Autobiographies of influential
Cassette
people. The greatest band of all time. I wanted to say David Bowie, but that's
That
not
works.
true. I just think David Bowie's great. I don't know. I'm really.
Bowie is great.
I love David Bowie. I love fucking Stevie Wonder. I've been to more Stevie Wonder concerts than any. Stevie Wonder. I don't know. Rolling Stones are pretty fucking great.
Yeah.
I know it ain't Green Day. I'll tell you that much for all you people out there that are still listening to Green Day. It ain't Green Day. Not the best of all time. They're great. They're great.
Yeah.
If you're a grungy guy, you love that. You live in your car. You never get laid anymore.
Dookie was pretty good when it came out.
Fucking great. Green Day
was
was
a good
great.
album.
Yeah, it was great. That was a high school treat. I think a friend of mine is the manager of Green Day, and I want to apologize sincerely for that comment. It just came out naturally.
Oh, they're still selling
Sorry,
out
they're
shows.
crushing
Yeah,
it. Actually,
yeah.
they're doing really, really well.
Yeah.
They're extraordinary musicians. They're better
All
than-
right, well,
I play the flute.
You play the flute?
Absolutely.
You're a flute player.
Yeah, my wife teaches piano, and I play the flute. Special.
Are you dead serious?
100%.
Wow.
Dead
Are you in
to it.
marching band?
No. I don't think they do the flute in the marching. Oh, they probably do.
Yeah,
Piccolo,
they do.
piccolo.
Yeah, you're right in the front.
Yeah, no. Oh, yeah. 110 clarinets in the big parade. And
Mm-hmm.
Yep. You're right.
Where do we go to get in touch with you? Where
Dan-
should people go to
you-
bug you? Get in
Listen.
your DMs.
You should pop over to
Yeah.
at Danny Boy's Famous Original Pizza.
You guys just hit 20K Instagram followers.
Brother,
Yep.
the people are so fucking wonderfully
They love
supportive. It's extraordinary.
Every reel you post just blows the fuck
Makes
up.
me so happy.
Are you on TikTok?
Hell yeah.
Are you running all that yourself?
These ladies do the whole
It's
situation. They're
incredible.
amazing.
It's incredible. Are you
Yeah.
doing those in one take?
Yeah, one take wonder.
Incredible.
What do you think it is? There's a script. It's speaking from the heart.
Hey, I gotta ask.
Should I do a script?
No.
I
I
could
think
not-
what you're doing is working. I wouldn't tell you to do anything.
I'll tell you if you asked me to act,
Yeah,
it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work.
It would
That
not
wouldn't- that
work.
wouldn't be it. It's got.
I am not an actor.
Okay. All right. So hit you up on Instagram.
Yo, you should hit me up on Instagram. You should come down and get a slice of
There
pizza.
we go. It's a beautiful day in downtown today.
It's fucking
It's
hot
cute.
as balls
Yeah.
down here.
It was kind of cool when we started, but it's
Yeah.
a nice day. So come down to the shop, grab a slice.
Get a slice of pizza. I'm here every day. It make me so happy. And introduce yourself and thank you for the
Daniel,
support.
Thank you for doing this. I really appreciate it. You're so kind with your time.
Let's go get a slice of pizza.
It was great.
You gonna have a slice?
All right.
God bless.
Thank you.
God for all your gods.
Enjoy.
I wanna know